Welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack. Tonight, I'm your host, Steve Hungarter. You can find my Twitter handle at IDP Hunter. I'm over here. I am the IDP ranker on ECR. I'm number 4 right now currently. I also do your waivers article, and I'm doing a rookie presentation tonight. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. Tonight, we're going to be doing rookie top defensive linemen, but I'm not going to do this alone. Tonight, I brought in a special guest. I brought in a heavy hitter, Mr. Joseph Harlow from IDP Plus. What's going on, Joseph?
Hello. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
It's going good. Hey, Joe, I've been a long-time fan. I've been checking you out a while now.
Thank you.
You got some good credentials. Not only are you on IDP Plus over there, and you have your own waiver wire article that you write every week, you also do a lot of good rookie content, don't you?
Thank you. Yeah, I have the waiver show that I do with my pal Justin Fry. You can find him at FFF Ballers over on X. We do that show. We did it last year once a week and have been continuing that through to be a more of a dynasty mailbag sort of show every week this offseason so far as well. But yeah,
you have 2 shows, if I'm not mistaken, right? You have the
yes.
The Ride or Die Dynasty with JJ Winter, and then you also have the mailbag show with Justin. How's that going?
It's good. Had a mailbag show yesterday, which is always a blast. We got into some combine stuff, just some other. We've been playing game the past couple weeks, just a buy, sell, hold. This week we did wide receivers and safeties, which was Justin picked the ones this week, and they were some tough questions. And then Rider Dynasty with JJ. First episode is tomorrow night, and we're gonna be going through some quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks. Gonna be breaking those down.
I'm gonna tune in for that.
A very good time.
Yeah, JJ's fun, so you'll have a good time with that. For my audience at home that's not familiar with Joseph Harlow's work, I'm telling you, he is one of the premier guys out here on YouTube, on IDP Plus. They are so lucky to have you over there, I'm telling you. And his rookie content's amazing. I purposely saved this show tonight for you, because when you see his scouting and how he goes about and deduces things, very logical way, it's very impressive, sir. What are some of your secrets? What are some of the things you look at when you are scouting?
For me, specifically on the defensive line. Sorry, I'm going to close the door a little more. Real quick. Just burst it in for the bathroom because cats, they're crazy little critters, but little womp rat. But really, what I look for along the defensive line, it's a combination, as every position is, of traits and production. I lean more traits. That's kind of more where I'm going. It can get me into trouble sometimes with like a Trayvon Walker being I think my top overall player in that draft class. Top 3 for sure. I'm trying to remember who else was in that one off the top of my head. But that'll get you in trouble with him versus Aiden Hutchinson. But I also had Kayvon Thibodeau over Hutchinson. So, hit or miss. Then production, we'll get into those a little later. But yeah, I think a lot of film basis, checking PFF and those other advanced metrics. I don't really care about a total sack number unless it's something absurd like a Will Anderson having 28 tackles for loss in his second to last year at Bama. That's like, okay, that level of production doesn't come by accident. Like I think 10 sacks, and still 10 sacks doesn't come by accident, but there's a lot of times where it's like, are you really it, or have you been helped? It's like, and then
depending on what college you went to, like are you playing against weak offensive line? How's this going to translate? Yeah, that's my struggle too.
Yep.
This is our last
other
chance
names there too. Yeah.
This is our last chance to kind of honor some of these guys. This is a top 10. The way I wrote this article, this is a while back, and for my audience at home, if you guys want to check out our work, we have award-winning rankings over here at the Fantasy Six Pack. We're a top 5 baseball site. We're a top 3 offensive site. Our owner, Joe Bond, is top 3 ECR and Fantasy Pros. I'm actually top 4 for IDP. So we have award-winning sites. If anybody wants to go over and check that out, we actually are running a promo code now. If you type in F6PMLB24, you save 15% off your membership. Plus, you get the Discord. I'm on there. Joe's on there. Plus, you get exciting guests like this every once in a while. Mr. Joseph Harlow. We got all kinds of people out here, and we're all in this community. We're trying to make it better. Joseph, I'm excited because this is the last time we actually get to kind of put our list out here.
Yep.
This is a little bit of an older list. I know some things have gone up and down, but it's the last time we get to honor these kids.
Yeah, I know when you put this list out, remember liking it a lot. It was very bold at the time, but it really has kind of come into focus more. Really, the big things, as we'll go through, is just some guys hadn't yet declared or weren't sure what they're going to declare or transfer. So now we know.
Right. And on top of that, this is your last, this is a good guide kind of sort of to get ready for the combine. Before we get into that, though, Joseph, I got to ask you a question, though. I heard a rumor. Are you a Star Wars enthusiast?
Little bit. Yes, very much so.
Okay. I grew up on Star Wars myself, and I grew up with the 1997 DVD version. I had the special edition, and there's a big controversy going on, and I know we've talked this on the side about Han Solo shooting first. Where do you stand on this? You know, the lines in the sand, where would you stand?
Oh, very firmly on Han shot first. Very firmly. I think a lot of people were against it because, oh, that's not Han's character, but I really think it is, especially at that point before getting with the Skywalker aura, the Force, you could say, the Skywalkers, just was very much out for himself, save his own skin, kind of a dirtbag, but not kind of, he was, but I think it fits. I don't think it's a downside to him because Greedo was going to shoot him, so gotta defend you. It's really self-defense.
Now that's what I was gonna say. If it's self-defense, I can see, right? But if you're telling me Han Solo to me is the John Wayne of science fiction, okay? He's supposed to be Johnny Hero. You're trying to make him a villain. They're trying to make him a villain that he's out there shooting people. You know, it kind of ruins my childhood a little bit, you know?
That's fair.
So
yeah, I don't think he's a villain as much as more not a pirate either, but kind of that mindset. It's we'll do it has to be done, but I don't think, I know a lot of people think that him shooting first was cold-blooded murder, but I think there's a line there. There's a line between murder and killing someone who's going to kill you.
See, I'm strongly,
long history of Greedo, so
I'm strongly on the other side, and I know he has a long history of Greedo. I stand on the other side because it's he marries Princess Leia. And they go on to whatever. So you mean to tell me Princess Leia is going to marry a scoundrel? You know, I kind of knew you were coming on, Joe, and I kind of did this just to give some evidence. I just want to show you Exhibit A right here, okay? For audience at home who's on Spotify, can't see this. I'm showing a picture of this of the grassy knoll, if you will. We have all our evidence concluded on the screen. Look how relaxed Han Solo is. He's just sitting there. He's got a little liquor in him. He's just relaxing. There's no way that guy is getting ready to take a shot and aim it at somebody. You see what I'm saying? I don't think there's any premeditated murder in that. What says you, Joe?
At the same time, if you keep going on this scene, he is unclicking the belt. He knows exactly what he is doing. I think there's part of him that's are you really going to make me do this, dude? Really gonna? All right. Yeah,
so I don't
think it makes him a bad person or anything for it. It's galaxy far, far away. A hive of scum and villainy. Mos Eisley, all rules are off pretty much. So
yeah, like I said, I grew up on the 97 version, so it was always kind of left interpretive, but the more they retcon things, the more it just ruins my childhood. But you know what they're not going to ruin for us, Joe? These darn rankings, okay? I just had to get to the bottom of that. I had to get it off my chest. Got to talk a little bit about some Star Wars. Let's talk a little bit about these kids, okay? My number 10 on my list. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me just go over some guys on the bubble. I had some guys named Marshawn Nealon. I had a couple guys on this bubble. I was just curious is there any of these guys here? Do they or were they guys? Actually, no. How about we do it like this, Joe? Is there any guys in your top 10 that probably weren't on my top 10 that you wanted to give highlight to?
Yeah, there's a couple. Or maybe do we want to bring up these first couple names just so we don't spoil the list too much?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
At least this first name I know is another edge rusher. Most names I bring up are other edge rusher types.
Okay, no, my number 10 is Jonah Ellis. Like I said, I did this a while ago. I did this based on the notion of he was getting hyped for there was a 2-game stretch where he had 5.5 sacks and 7.5 tackles for loss. And for real, at one point, scouts had him as a top 5 player. When I did the numbers on him, he finished I think 26 QB hurries and 13 sacks. And the reason I put him lower is because pretty much most of his production was those 2 games, and the rest of it was kind of, so-so. But, on a class that is so elite, so rich, so edgy, I'm still going to include him. I just have him farther back. What says you about Jonah Ellis?
Yeah, I like Ellis. I don't think he's not in my top 10.
Okay.
I like him. I just think he's there's a big kind of conglomerate of similar players. You have, I guess, just bring some names up. Mohammed Kamara from CSU. Sucks to be a Ram. Go Pokes. I'm a University of Wyoming alum. So that's our big rival. Javon Solomon from Troy, who I like a little more, like the tools there. Even a Xavier Thomas from Clemson. All those kind of 6'2", 250, give or take, those type of edges, quicker than more powerful types. I think there's just kind of a big lot of those type of guys. So again, I like Ellis a lot. I think he's going to be very good. If it's one of those where if he sneaks into the second round of drafts, NFL drafts, then crank him up. The bloodlines help with 2 brothers in the NFL right now. Both are still in the league, right?
I haven't thought about that enough.
Christian? Yeah.
I haven't thought about that enough. Hey, what's with this NFL draft class? There's a lot of siblings, DNA, brothers, sons. It's weird. It's a weird draft class. It's kind of neat.
It is.
Earlier in the year, I put Christian Wilkins in my top, whatever DTs, but I kind of slowed him down a bit because, like I said, we only have 10 players to rank here. How many can we actually put on this list? I only have 2 defensive tackles, full disclosure. And in fact, I can kind of, if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of put them both on the screen together so we could compare and contrast. So for my number 9, I put a guy named Byron Murphy III. And then the other guy I have, Byron Murphy II, the other guy I have is Jer'Zhan Newton for number 8. So I have 9 and 8. My justification is, for me, Newton's the number 1 defensive tackle in the draft class, and Murphy's right there with him. But there's a consensus growing, right, that Murphy's number 1 and Newton's number 2. What says you about those players when you're comparing and contrasting defensive tackle?
They're pretty close for me. I do have so the way I do my prospect rankings, I go for more NFL wise first. Like, how does this player rank for like an NFL draft, and then translate that to fantasy? Because like, I can love a guy like last year, a player I adored was Tyler Scott, the wide receiver out of Cincinnati. I had him as my 30th overall player, I think, and then he got 4th round capital. So that kind of changes things. But so that's the film I went on. I thought he was going to go the 2nd round. So that's kind of the way I go about it first. So here, both Newton and Murphy I have as a borderline 1st round grade for NFL teams, which would put them in high D tackle rankings. With D tackle versus edge, that's another conversation, but I like both. I prefer Murphy a little bit. Just he's younger. I do think he has more of a presence in the run game. Newton really struggles against the run, can really get overpowered at times. He also has the injury going for him right now. I believe it's a shoulder injury. I know Dane Brugler with The Athletic broke that news recently. I'm trying to remember if it was a shoulder or something else. But yeah, it's really if you tell me you have Newton over Murphy, I'm not like, oh, you're an idiot. This is crazy. But I do prefer Murphy a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both really good. I don't think either are top 15 NFL picks, but both in that 16 to 25 range, I think is where they fit.
That's what I was going to ask you. Over here at the Fantasy Six Pack, the offensive guys, they have a process, and they're doing like NFL mocks, like where players are going. I don't really do them. Like, it's kind of like it defeats the purpose. I used to when I was younger, like, oh, this guy's going to Bears, this guy's going to Falcons. But as soon as you miss one, the whole order kind of jumbles up. And I'm a hypocrite saying this because I don't do them. But like, where do you see these guys fall? I think one will fall probably top 25. That's how I interpret it. What do you think? You think both will get 1st round pedigree?
So I do think both will be in the 1st round. Murphy I would put money on being the 1st pick. I would consider putting money on him being 10 picks higher than Newton. Again, the injury for Newton is a factor right now, and Murphy is younger and bigger and a little more explosive. So just traits wise, he is a little more of what the NFL is looking for, minus the injury. Bigger school, stuff does factor in. Didn't start right away, but Texas, they always have a loaded D-line and are always rotating, so he had a big presence. If you look at just the pure pass rush metrics, like pass rush win rate, which is always a hard one to say, Murphy was the top D tackle in college football this year. even if I think we talked about it on one of the IDP mock draft Mondays, and I think even if you dropped it down to like D tackles with 5 pass rushes, he was still number 1. So
exactly,
which is insane.
Yeah.
But Newton's still really good too. But fighting through the injury, which you know how long he was fighting that injury. So
yeah, I have a hard time trying to like say, oh, this guy, he'll probably beat the Bears. I think the Bears do need to take an edge, or this guy needs to go. I think they need, a lot of teams need like different things, different tackles.
Yeah.
But the guys over here, they have a whole. If anybody wants to check that article out, they're doing a whole rookie. Where the landing spots are going to go. Over here at the 6-pack, we have award-winning rankings. If you guys want, there's a promo code F6PMLB24. You save 15% on those award-winning rankings over here. Joe, when I'm looking at these two guys, when I look at Murphy, I'm looking at like potential. I'm looking at Madden stats. He's a pressure guy, 6'1", 308, low leverage. PFF likes him too, right?
Yes, they do. Yeah, there's 91.5 pass rush grade, which is 10th amongst all. Oh, how did I sort this? 2024 eligible draft players with at least 106 pass rush snaps.
I mean, that says a lot right there. He's a pass rush pressure specialist. If that's what you're looking for on your team, and I guess not the opposite, but a different kind of build. I would put for Newton. Newton winning Defensive Player of the Year in 2023. Newton was, he was top 25 in the country at one point, when people were doing all their scouting, but he's more of a 73 tackle kind of guy, 5 sacks, 2 seasons. He's more of what I call a one gap defender, which is, the guy's over him, he knocks him down, that sort of thing. So they're different kind of playing types. And you're right. Nobody's wrong. It all depends on what a team wants. You go to a grocery store. Yeah. I don't know about you. When I go to Walmart, I have one thing in mind. I always end up leaving with 3 things. I don't know what it is about Walmart. I can't help myself. I want pizza. I end up with a hamburger. Depends what you want. Moving on from these guys.
Double check something I said. The age difference between them looks like Byron Murphy is 8 days younger. So the age gap is not as wide as I thought it was. So just want to throw that out there.
When I'm dealing with linemen, I did an article over here as well on age cliffs because, Dynasty, usually they peak a little older anyway. So I'm not as, this guy's younger, like a running back. I'd care. Corners, safeties, I'd care. But yeah, for defensive linemen, I want to say the peak ages are like, well, actually for DT, it's like 26 to 28. We want old dudes, we want strength. For defensive ends, it's like 24 and up. And you'll see guys when they hit 24, that wall is like 31, 32. That's when you kind of get off them. Yeah. So you'll see guys that are right on the edge, like the Parsons, the Hutchinsons, those kind of guys like, oh, hey, this ain't even their peak yet. Let me jump in there, So I'm not as worried. But yeah, when you said that, I wasn't quite sure the ages on these two. So good fact check on us here. Yes. I don't got a lot to say about defensive tackles. You want to go to number 7?
Yeah, there's a couple other D tackles I like, but I don't think any are really going to end up sniffing the top 10 D-line rankings. Like you have a Rook or Horoho from Clemson, who's kind of that tweener. Braden Dorless. Or is it Brandon or Braden Dorless?
Dorless, yeah. And I always have him on the bubble. Yeah, so.
Yeah. And then the other guys who I think could end up having a claim to be a top 10 D lineman are Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State, who also is right behind Byron Murphy and all those pass rush metrics, though he has some other issues with him and play strength. Then Braden Fisk from formerly Western Michigan, finished with Florida State. His numbers aren't going to be great, but the dude's just, his film is so fun.
His Senior Bowl,
I don't know where he's going to be drafted. Yeah.
For some reason, and I don't know the backstory, they asked him to go to the other team during the Senior Bowl. I don't know why that is, maybe depth or whatever, but yeah.
The other guys, a bunch of the other guys on the other team decided not to play in the game. So,
is that what it was?
Yeah, so they just need another body, and he was like, sure.
He put on a clinic. Is he in your top 10, top 15 at all? I'm just curious.
He would be in my top 15, but not my top 10. Again, just D tackles versus edges, I'm almost always going to go with the edge player. So
yeah, I do too. And maybe it's just I like that position. They're bendy, they're athletic. My top 6, I really enjoy all these players. I'm gonna move on to number 7.
To give you real quick, to give you 2 other D tackle names that are really going to be deeper in there to take in like a 4th round of a draft: Christian Boyd, Northern Illinois; Dwayne Carter out of Duke. Under the radar names. I don't think either are going to the combine, which is kind of crazy, but both are very good players.
What do you like in those guys?
Production, traits, little bit of unprovenness, but also just their film is just really kicking ass at lower levels, sure, but fun, nasty players.
Gotcha. Number 7, and I was like beating my own chest. I was tooting my own horn, but I've been reading some of your articles, my friend, and we've been on a couple pods together. I didn't think many people knew who this name is, this number 7. Darius Robinson kind of came out of nowhere, started trending up the charts, had some great trending of late. I put him as my number 7, and this is kind of the sneaky ranking because most people don't know. He's an overachiever in my mind. And there's a couple people out there that like him even higher than me. So I'm gonna give the microphone, the spotlight to you, my friend. What do we know about Darius Robinson? Where do you have him ranked?
So I have him as a top 20 player overall in this draft class.
Overall, that's amazing.
Overall.
Yep. Amazing.
I'm comped to a Cam Jordan right now, which is also one of my favorite players watching over the past decade or so. I think he's just, the tools are really good. Am concerned a little bit that he did take some time to break out, but with defensive changes at Missouri, which is still actually a pretty good recruiting school. So a lot of depth there, but not high level. And then he really did show out when they were able to utilize him more as an edge. He's a bigger edge rusher. Do think he has the ability to kind of move around the field, but they used him more as a defensive tackle early on, but let him cook on the edge this year. And he really dominated against Georgia, was really kicking butt. Some of those other teams, he was really showing out. And it wasn't just gimmicky. It was power, speed. It's a really good film overall. And then at the Senior Bowl, he was the best player. Him or Quinion Mitchell were the best players at the Senior Bowl, which is important.
These are my favorite names coming up. And like I said, Darius Robinson's in there. I just kind of put him a little bit further back. But for you to say 20 overall, I'm like, that's impressive. I got to get him on the show. Tell him, your profile. What do you see? What games jumped out? What have you? But yeah, Darius Robinson's a name we all should be paying attention to for the combine.
Absolutely.
For my number 6, and 6 and 5 can be kind of flip-flop depending on what kind of prototype you're looking for. Chris Braswell is my 6. The reason I got him here, to me, he's an appealing prospect in that defensive end run that we're going to have. He's what you would call a stand-up rusher. Let's go with his stats, his production. 13 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, 33 pressures. He's going to create buzz next level. He's going to be one of those pressure rate guys that we're talking about. And here's a fun stat for you. PFF has him, every time he rushed to quarterback, he was getting there 20% of the time. So that's a guy that I want. So to answer your question earlier, yeah, I'm going to argue stats, but I'm also going to argue metrics. We're going to find a perfect medium between. I had him 5. I had him 6. I'm putting him 6 for now because I just like the other guys a little higher. What says you, Joseph?
Sure. I think I would end up having him a little lower, but like 7, 8. Just don't think he's going to have first-round draft capital or early second capital even. There are some issues with fluidity and hand usage, which can cause some issues at the next level. He does have a lot of really good production. I really do like his film. I do think he's very good. I would love my team to take him in the second round, but
yeah. Curious your thoughts on this. Would you put any of the defensive tackles ahead of Robinson or Braswell if you were drafting?
I would consider putting both D tackles over Braswell.
Would you?
Not over Robinson. I would consider it. I think I would today.
Yeah. Right now I would. Yeah.
It really kind of depends on where Braswell goes. If he ends up being a top 50 pick, then he jumps back over there. But if he falls out of those top 50 range, even into the third round, then he's one who's kind of could really see a lot of ways. And where he goes. If he ends up in Baltimore,
That's a smart thought. That's a smart take because like I was thinking about that too. Cause like depending on what podcast or what month I was on, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take the nose tackle here. Oh, I'm gonna take the defensive tackle here. Like it all depends like what I'm feeling at that moment. If one of those defensive tackles pops, and I said this before, you forever, all you gotta do is snap him in, plug him and play him, and you can play other positions.
Mhm.
It's great. But for me, I'm on sleeper a lot. So give me
Same.
that linebacker edge. I can kind of, take my chances each week.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the edges a little bit better as a prospect. So I don't know. I'm kind of like I jump around where I put those defensive tackles.
If I'm in a league that has a DT spot, I will take both D tackles over him. But
there you go.
I will also play in almost exclusively sleeper leagues, aside from like the IDP Invitational and such, where then in those leagues I would take the D tackles over him.
These top 5 are pretty. I'd be happy with either one of these guys, to be honest. But number 5, I got Bralen Trice. With him though, as a prospect, he's a strong guy. He's a strong run defender. Usually, when you're seeing these college kids, it's either I'm really good at the pass, I'm really good at the run. He's good at both. Not only is he a terrific pass rusher and a strong run defender, he has 4.7 speed. As a pass rusher, produced 70 total pressures, including 51 QB hurries, 17 QB hits, and 7 sacks on the season. He might need a little polishing up next level, but don't they all? He might need a little work. But 4.7 speed is kind of my key right there. He's going to get on the field. Coaches are going to find a way to play him. I don't see any cons, with a guy like that. So that's why I kind of put him over Braswell. How do you have those guys ranked?
I have Braswell a little higher. I'm not super high on Trice. I like him.
Okay.
I see him as a pure second-round player. I do see some athletic limitations, not the straight line speed, but just I think he's kind of tight. And a lot of his success, I feel like, was not gimmicky, but it's very much not that, but very much high efforts, low trait, a lot of effort and technique, which I'm just not sure how well that's really going to translate to the next level. And I would take a couple other names. I would take a Marshawn Nealand over him. I would take Austin Booker from Kansas. Guys who don't have much on film, but some film that is crazy fun.
You said it yourself, translate. How do we translate these players, and what do we see when we look at film? How do we interpret? You know what I mean? So here's what's interesting about that. My number 4 is Chop Robinson. Okay. Now, a lot of people like him. I understand. I've read your articles over on IDP Plus, guys. For your audience that doesn't know Joe's work on IDP Plus, he has great waiver wire content, great rookie content. And Chop Robinson's a guy of yours, right? You love Chop Robinson, you say? I'm not a big – oh, good.
Sorry. Yeah, Chop is currently my 3rd edge rusher ranked. And I honestly – he's really in a tier with some of the other guys.
Huh?
Film is fun. It's so fun. The production's not really there. A lot like a fellow Penn State alum, Odafe Owe. Not as drastic as having no sacks in his last season, but there's that first step is unreal. It's already going to be top 5 in the NFL once he gets there. And if a good coach can get their hands on him,
yes.
I think my thing with this class is I do like a lot of the players. I guess just to spoil it, the top 3 names, as we all know, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, and Laiatu Latu.
Yeah.
Chop has the highest upside, and I don't think it's close.
Interesting.
In a class like this, at least from a pure sack standpoint and a pure edge threat standpoint, I think the others have higher potential as pure total football players. But yeah, I think if anyone here is going to turn into a 12, 15 sack sort of player year in, year out, I think it's Chop. But he also could be out of the league in 3 years.
So let me play devil's advocate with you on this. Everybody usually consensus on him is a top 4 after the big 3 go out. I'm a little hesitant, just like you were, Trice. I'm a little hesitant on him. So it's so cool to have a different take. As Ricky said on his podcast, Ricky Rod, he goes, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. I'm a little hesitant, but I don't know about you when you're building the perfect Madden player. When I'm designing a Madden player and I'm editing, it's him. 6'3", 250, runs 4.6 speed. That's remarkable.
He might run in the 4.4s.
See what I'm saying? And then he's a former 5-star recruit. He excels at creating sacks to fumble. He's above average run defender. All of that checks I'm saying PFF, my Madden mind, right? But I don't know what really happened in college. He ended up 5.5 sacks? I don't know. There's a lot there to kind of interpret. In my mind, if anyone doesn't pan out next level, it could be him. But he has the size and the speed. How can he not? So I'm like 50-50 with him. I got him 4. I'm comfortable at 4. Most people have him as their baseline, but if there's anybody I'd move around, it'd be him. Just like your Trice take, I would be a little more hesitant with him.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. I know this position, I just really want that upside.
Yeah.
I think his upside is insane. If you watch the tape, especially from Michigan, the reason I know JJ McCarthy gets a lot of hate from that game because he only threw it 8 times. The reason they did that is because Chop was dominating. They passed the ball. They had 3 pass sets on the first 2 drives, and he just put the left tackle on his butt, or the right tackle, both sides, and just put him on the ground and was like, we cannot block this guy, so we're going to run every play. Because he is a little weaker against the run. It's like that was the reason they switched it. It's like they could not block Chop.
Well, there you go. So, with this draft class, it is deep at defensive linemen. And, once we take all the defensive lineman edge off the board, I don't know what your draft strategy is, but I like a lot of these defensive tackles next level. Just it's a common thing. They're kind of a little inconsistent. But for me, if I have a high dollar draft pick, I'm trying to get one of these top 3 coming up. And I think we have a similar top 3. I'm going to open up 3. Any final comments on Chop?
No, just very fun.
Gotcha. He is a fun player. Number 3, and you can do these any way you want to. I got, how do you say that? Latte Latu? Sounds like a Starbucks drink, don't it? Latte Latu. Let me get one of those. With him, I guess the bag on him is medical, right, Joe? Well, what's your take on Latu?
Yeah, there's some medical stuff there. We'll see what the Combine says this week. And then I see a very limited athlete.
Do you?
I do. He has great hand fighting, great power. He's a great technician, but I just don't see a top level edge athlete. And maybe this week we'll see if he runs really well, if his other stuff is good. A lot of people in NFL circles like him. I'm hesitant on him, and I'm willing to be wrong on that. He's one I really need to do a lot more work on because I struggle with.
So with him, old school football guys out there like me, you would call him an odd man edge rusher is what he kind of is. He's a I guess UCLA, as the story goes, was the only school they were willing to take a chance on him because he hurt his neck. So he had all these medical concerns. He comes back and all of his metrics, all of his PFF, all of that stuff was like a magical season. He had a win rate of 20%. He led all of those guys in all the major categories. That's why he's getting so much love and talent. I've seen some mock drafts. People are taking him as high as 2. I can't do it. It's too rich for my blood. 3, I'm kind of a little iffy on, but I'm willing to bet on the talent on a younger player. But where would you put Latu?
Amongst just the defensive linemen, I'd put him probably 5 right now. I would take Robinson, Chop, and then the top 2 over him.
Yeah, you're a big. Like
again,
I said, you're
it's
a big
one of those.
Darius
He ends up going top 10, then
be different. Yeah. And you know what? Any one of these top 3 can be one of those top. I think just I'm not a mathematician or draft scout or anything like that, but I think two of these edges, probably the top 2 coming up, can be top 10 potential draft picks, especially with the teams that need. But Latu can be the guy over either one. I can make a case too. So it's just kind of interesting. All of these guys we've talked about have some cons, but I think the top 2 are pretty much consensus, maybe either or. So I'll go to number 2 here, Dallas Turner. Joe, what are your thoughts on Dallas Turner?
I like Turner a lot. Currently my top edge player.
Oh, is he? Okay.
But him and the next name, if you just want to throw them up too, I think we can hit them both at the same time.
I'll put them both together here. So we got Dallas Turner at 2. And then we got Jared Verse at 1. Full disclosure, when I wrote this article, I had to combine the linebackers together. So I put Turner in my linebacker one. So I kind of threw him in here, kind of changed it up. But yeah, we got Turner for the sake of DLs, and we got Verse as the other DL. What says you about Verse and Turner?
I like both a lot. I have a first round grade on both of them. I think they're the top 2 in fantasy drafts for defensive line right now. Both are very good against the run and the pass. So really full upside, full players. They both have a lot of really good film, a lot of really good numbers. Turner I have over Verse. Just I think he's a little higher upside for edge threat. Has the higher sack potential, and frankly, a lot of that comes from Verse being really good against the run and more of a power instead of a speed type rusher. And Verse is 2 years older, just after spending those couple years at Albany. So that's really what it comes down to. And I do think both need some more refining. And at that point, I just have Turner over him because I'll take the higher athlete.
Yeah, really Turner was my number 1 earlier this year. But then I went back and I looked at Verse's tape too. So again, it depends on what kind of day I'm having, when I'm evaluating these guys. But in regards to Verse, Jared Verse, for people in the audience that don't really know who Verse is, out of Florida State, he's another one of these edge guys. If he would have came out last year, he would have been a top 12 pick easy. He was highly regarded over the names that you guys know now, Will Anderson, Boye Mafe, players like that. He decided to go back to school for his 5th year, and it still paid off. He got 9 sacks, 14 QB hits, 35 hurries. It's going to be interesting to me, Joseph, to see where these players go. Like, where are they going to go? Where are they going to fall? Where are they going to land? So, I mean, anything can change.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can do a reboot on a Star Wars trilogy and change the whole narrative and make the guy ruthless scoundrel who he used to be a hero when I was a kid. See what I did there, Joe? You can change anything. What do they call that? Alternate history, if you will. But it's interesting to see how these rankings will hold up after the combine. I mean, anything can change. One of the metrics I use, Joe, I bet on speed a little bit. Like if I have like linebackers, if you're not 4.6 or higher, I'm not really regarding you as such, because I don't know how you're going to field. But speed is a killer with these drills.
Split.
Yeah, thank you for saying it. I did an article, and I don't know if you've seen it. It's like combine cheat codes. There is compelling evidence with the 10-yard splits, 3 cone drills, and the broad jumps. Those 3 major categories compile all the all-pro defensive ends that we have. So just food for thought. I mean, there's a lot of these metrics matter. A lot of this substance matters, and we're going to get to see who these guys are coming up.
Yes, excited for it. Really excited for the combine to come into play, really get a better idea on where draft capital is going to be and how athletic these guys are. Gotcha.
Okay, so we're going to close the show up a little early. I just want to thank Joseph Harlow for his time. If you guys want any of his articles, go over to IDP Plus. If you guys want to check out his podcast, check out YouTube IDP Plus. They got a lot of good stuff coming out. There's a rookie mag. A rookie mag's about to be coming out too, Joseph. And I'm looking forward to some of your work. And last but not least, guys, if you guys believe that Han Solo was the villain that Joseph trying to project him to be, you go over on his site, you go to write that. But I refuse to believe that. He's a hero in my eyes. May the force be with you, Joseph.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Oh, my pleasure. Hopefully we can get back together and do some more pods in the future.
For sure. We'll definitely do that.
Signing out. We'll catch you next week. Next week we got a good show. We're going to be doing combine overreactions and risers, fallers, what have you. But Joseph, thanks again for your time. We appreciate this so much.
Thank you.
Back. And hopefully you come back.
I would love to. Thanks, Steve.
Excellent. You have a good night.
You too.